Hi, I'm Kelly with citruscycles.ca. I'm here with Riesen Mueller's new charger Mixte. It's made in Germany and it's a beautiful Bosch powered e-bike with an integrated power tube battery and an optional second battery with the power pack on the larger 49 centimeter frame. This is the 46 centimeter frame and there isn't room for the second battery. It is available in the beautiful electric red you see here, black matte, and pearl white. This is the Mixte frame, which means that the crossbar is much lower. Now, it's not really a true step through. This would be a little bit high to step over, although for some of our customers, they do like to do that. You're more likely to get on throwing your leg over the rear, but with the lower crossbar, it makes it a lot easier for starting and stopping, and that's one of the benefits of a Mixte frame. You can also get it in a regular frame, and the regular frame is available in 3 sizes, and all 3 sizes have room for that second battery. So it has the integrated power tube battery and then an optional power pack battery. With the Mixte frame here, it's available in the 2 sizes. There are 2 different drivetrain options as well. So this is the GH New Vinci. That means we've got a Gates carbon fiber belt instead of a chain and a New Vinci continuously variable transmission. I'll talk a little bit more about the CVT later, but the main idea is that it's super intuitive. You've got a little cyclist here, and if I turn this, you can see it gets flatter. Turn it this way, it gets steeper, and that's super intuitive. You can also see I'm shifting while we're stopped, and you can shift while pedaling, which is great. And it's a completely sealed unit, so there's no maintenance or adjustment that needs to be done. It simply works. You can also get the GT Touring if you prefer, shifting through gears. It comes with a chain instead of the belt, 11-speed cassette with a 11 to 42 range, and a derailleur. And so some people prefer the Touring because it feels to them a little bit sportier, and you can shift between specific gears instead of a continuously variable transmission like you have here. But the majority of our customers are choosing the New Vinci, maintenance-free, easy to shift while you're stopped, and so very intuitive. I should mention that the new charger that I've got here is very similar to the supercharger, also from Riesen Mueller, and I have a video review of it on our website as well. One of the main differences is that the supercharger uses dual power tube batteries. So in addition to a power tube here that have one in the top tube, that means they can't get it in a Mixte frame. The supercharger only has the higher crossbar, whereas with the new charger with the dual battery option, you would get a power pack in there, and that allows them to do the Mixte version. With the supercharger, you also have the option of a roll-off hub with the Gates carbon belt. For the detailed specs on this bike, the current pricing, to order online or set up an appointment to come try it here in Ladysmith or take advantage of our Try at Home program where we bring it anywhere on Vancouver Island or the Lower Mainland, head to our website at citruscycles.ca. There you'll find our contact information, and I'd be happy to hear from you if you have any questions or feedback. So the new charger is an incredibly capable bike. It's the perfect e-bike for commuting or running errands, but it's really comfortable, and so that's going to inspire you to seek out those longer rides and go exploring, especially if you opt for the dual batteries. Then you can be able to ride all day and go on those longer adventures. So the comfortable frame design, it's a really comfortable geometry. The ergonomic grips that we've got here, the Ergon GP1s, the Thudbuster suspension seat post is going to help smooth out the ride. The air fork, suspension air fork, is going to also make it really comfortable. That's going to help you go on those longer rides and stay comfortable while you're riding. You can also get off the road and discover new trails and paths with these really nice super wide Supermoto X 2.4 inch wide tires. And of course this Bosch CX drive is going to let you climb up any hill. So you no longer have to go, the shortest or the easiest way home. Go ahead, if it's safer to go up that big hill, no problem. You're going to climb right up there with that Bosch CX. And of course we've got a rear rack here, so you're going to be able to bring everything you need. And it even comes with a water bottle integrated onto the frame here, cageless design, super cool, makes it easy for you to get hydrated. And we also have a handy ABS folding lock to keep your bike safe. So those are the main highlights. Let me go through all of the details of the bike, and like I said, you can get the detailed specs on our website at citruscycles.ca. So this is the larger frame size, and as you can see, we do now have room for that optional second power pack battery. It's the beautiful black matte color here, And so we have the power tube battery that's built into the frame. Now it is removable, and I love the way Riesenmüller has handled this. They actually have this cover here that we can open up to access to the battery. So this is a standard Bosch battery. It's not made by Riesenmüller. That gives you the assurance that, you know, a number of years from now, if you need a replacement battery, you're very likely to be able to get that because all Bosch bikes use the same battery. That way you're not relying on the bike manufacturer, but instead you're relying on Bosch. And Bosch has made, obviously, a lot of these for lots of different manufacturers. So I really like the fact that it is a standard Bosch battery. I also like the fact that Riesenmüller hasn't added, you know, some sort of aluminum plate or something like that that a lot of manufacturers are doing when they use a Bosch power tube. Instead, they're actually using this cover here, and that makes it just a really clean solution. They've even added a carrying handle, which is great because the power tube generally doesn't have a carrying handle. The other clever thing that Bosch has done is with the locking mechanism, you can see we've got the key slot there. When I put the key in, it won't drop the battery out of the frame. So any of our Shimano bikes or Rosa powered bikes with the frame batteries, as soon as you turn the key, you have to make sure that you're ready to catch the battery because it is going to fall right out. With this one, what's happened is it's now at a stage 1 position here. It's not going to come out. I can't pull it out unless I press this little tab here, press the button, and now the battery slides right out. So I really like that from a safety perspective. You're not worried about the battery falling out and crashing to the ground. Really easy to get in and out. So that's the power tube battery. And then you've got the optional second battery here. That's a power pack, also removable from the frame with the key. Carrying handle, really easy to move it around. And you can ride with just the power tube battery if you wish. Remove the power pack. The bike comes with a little plug that's going to cover the contacts for where the battery is, so if you're riding without the second battery. And on this bike, we would open up the charging flap at the bottom here, and you can charge it both batteries on the bike if you wish. Or of course you can remove the batteries as I just showed you and bring them inside and charge them. So we're looking at the new Charger Mixte GH New Vinci, and that means we get the Gates carbon fiber belt. That's awesome. I love having a belt because there is no maintenance. I don't have to oil it, I don't have to keep it clean, I don't have to worry about rusting, and typically we see a belt lasting 2 to 4 times longer than a chain. We even have a nice belt guard here, and of course if you've got the touring edition with the chain, you're going to have the chain guard, and that's going to keep your pants from getting caught in the belt or getting dirty from a chain. The new Charger uses an elevated chainstay design. So if you look at your bike at home, you'll probably notice that the chain is running above, or if you have a belt, above and below the chainstay. And with a chain, that means we would break the chain, put a new one on, and then put a missing link in, because you can't really thread the chain through above and below the chainstay. With a belt, obviously you can't break the belt. And so you have 2 options when designing a bike with a belt. One is to put a brake in the frame, and we see a lot of bikes with that. There's a couple bolts here, take those out, now there's a hole, you pass the new belt through. On the new Charger and the new Charger Mixte, we actually have an elevated chainstay, which is a really nice option because now all we have to do is loosen the bolts here, drop the rear wheel, replace the belt and put it back on. There's no need for a brake in the frame. I love that from a design perspective and also from a riding perspective. It really makes it for a very sporty, enjoyable ride. So I love having the belt. I love having the New Vinci CVT. As I mentioned earlier, it's super intuitive. We just have this little cyclist here that shows you that if you need it to be steeper, you just simply twist this, and we can do that while we're stopped. With a touring version, of course, with the derailleur, you can't shift while you're stopped. If you try, it's not going to work, and when you start pedaling, you're going to get that terrible crunching noise, and it's going to be really hard to start. With the CVT, if you stop and forget to downshift before you stop, no problem. Or if you stop suddenly and you just don't have time, then you can go ahead and shift that to be easier to start pedaling. Once you get going, you find your legs are moving too quickly, just twist that down to go flat. So really nice from a usability standpoint. I love having that. And again, from a maintenance perspective, that's completely sealed. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to oil it. I don't have to worry about replacing the cassette, because with the touring version, eventually the chain and the cassette will wear, and so will the derailleur, and eventually you'll need to replace them. With the New Vinci system, there's nothing to replace in there. It just simply works. So I really enjoy that part of the bike. From a comfort perspective, I already mentioned this integrated water bottle. I love the fact that it's a cageless design. So we've just got these 2 little knobs here and corresponding indentations in the water bottle, and you just slide that on. So it slides on and off. I've never actually had one fall off, and I've been using them for quite a while on my D-Lite, which is great. I love the fact that it's just really easily accessible, and you're not having to find somewhere for a cage. Now, there are mounting points for a cage here as well. On the Mixte frame here, you'd want to use a sideways cage that the bottle comes out sideways, because it'd be pretty hard to get it up there. On the regular frame, of course, you'd have lots of extra room there. But if you go for the second battery, which I definitely recommend on the larger frame sizes, then of course that's going to block that. So it's nice having the cage that is built in there. We've got these Ergon GP1 grips that are super comfortable. They are locking, so they're not going to spin on you as you put your weight on them. This is the GH New Vinci, so they use the Selle Royale Nuvola saddle. It's actually quite comfortable, got lots of cushion here. And the reason they do that is the GH New Vinci actually has a higher weight capacity in terms of the rider and gear than the other bikes. The GH tells us that it's a higher weight rating than the GT Touring. And they accomplish that by using different components. One of those is the saddle. If you go with the GT Touring, you get the Selle Royale, I think it's the new looking, which is also a very comfortable saddle. But of course, saddles are easy to change. We also have the Thudbuster suspension seat post, which is great. That really is going to help improve your comfort and help you to ride a long time. The pedals, well, I would probably change the pedals myself, but they do have a fair bit of grip in their rubber, so they're not going to cut you, which is nice. You know, and pedals are a tricky thing for bike manufacturers. Everybody has a personal preference. There's nothing wrong with these. I would go with a platform pedal because I like wider pedals, and probably pins on them so I'm not sliding off in the rain. These do have a fair bit of grip on here, so you might not have problems in the rain with those. We've got the bars here, have a bit of rise in them. They're a little bit narrower and a really nice elevated stem here, and that helps to improve the comfort. Really gets you in a very upright riding position. That's one of the nice things about the new Charger, is it's super comfortable because of the saddle, the Thudbuster, the grips, and that riding position. You're not hunched over, but you still have good control over the bike should you get yourself into some tricky situations. To keep you comfortable and clean, I suppose, we've got these really nice full coverage fenders here from SKS, and you can see they're really mounted well to the bike. We've got up here on the fork, and then a couple stays here as well. They don't rattle around, they're very secure. You really don't notice them other than the fact that you can ride through puddles and not get dirty. So safety is really important to Riesenmüller, and so it's nice to see that we've got these Supermoto X tires from Schwalbe with a reflective sidewall in it, so that at night if the car shines their lights on you from the side, they're really, really bright, which is great. The tires themselves, super wide, they're 2.4 inches wide on a 40mm rim, and that just gives you so much control and stability. Some people are sometimes worried about the increase in rolling resistance, but if you look at kind of the rounded profile of the tire here, when you're on pavement, you're really only running on the center part of the tire here. And so I don't find that they're particularly inefficient. In fact, they roll quite well. But when you get into gravel, soft sand, then the rest of the width of the tire comes into play and gives you that stability and control that you're looking for. Lots of traction, especially in wet situations where you're cornering or stopping. It's really nice to have those really stable tires. Again, with the safety, we've got an integrated Supernova light here at the front. It's running off of the main battery. So if I turn the Bosch system on here, turn the light on, it's going to run from the main battery, so we don't have to worry about charging it. And we have a nice bright light in the back here as well with a integrated reflector. Speaking of reflectors, we do have reflectors on the forks as well, which is pretty cool. My only complaint about this light, it's nice and bright, it's mounted in the right place, it's not going to bounce around when you're going over bumps, but there aren't any side cutouts, and I'd like to see that. However, having said that, we do have the reflective sidewalls, and that helps a lot, as well as those reflectors. The brakes on this bike, because it's the GH New Vinci, they've gone with the Magura MT4, which are very reliable hydraulic disc brakes. On the touring version, you'd get the Shimano Dior. Nice big rotor up here to help you stop, and same on the back. So it's really important to me to see that we are going with high quality, reliable hydraulic disc brakes that are really going to help bring you to a stop very easily. Now, I kind of mentioned you could really use this bike for almost anything, and including some trail riding or commuting. The nice thing is if you're going on a longer ride, you're on your way to the office, or you're doing groceries, you've got this really great rack here, and it even includes a bungee cord. So a lot of times they'll have, you know, a spring-mounted metal thing that rattles around. This is nice because it's silent, it's rubber, and it is an adjustable size. So you slide that off, slide that further, and you can get bigger things under there and really secure them. I've used that for a jug of milk, for example, and a few other things. Works really well. For convenience, we also have a high quality kickstand here. It's mounted on the rear chainstay here, mounted quite well to the frame, so it's nice and solid. It's not going to flop around, and it's also not going to be in the way of the pedals if you have the kickstand down or are moving the bike. They're not going to collide, and really makes the bike very stable. We have adjustability on the height even if you wish to adjust that. And we also have an ABUS folding lock to keep the bike secure. The key is the same key we use for the battery over here, so it's nice, you only need one key. And this is the newer design from ABUS, really easy to remove. Before we used to have a flap, and you'd have to open up the flap and pull the lock out. Now we just slide those out and the lock comes out, which is great. So a folding lock is has the kind of the flexibility and convenience of a cable lock, because you know I can fold it up nice and small, it mounts on the bike, easy to wrap around the frame and then around what we're locking it to. But unlike a cable lock, which can be easily cut, these are actually steel, hardened steel bars coated in rubber to protect the frame. So much more secure than a cable lock, but less hassle than a U-lock, because you know there's a mounting point for it. And a lot of times when bikes are stolen, sometimes it's because well, it wasn't locked, because it was a pain to bring the locker along, or just to lock it properly was inconvenient. So it's really nice having a great mounting point for that. It's completely silent. I've never heard the lock rattling around. If you go back to the Bosch system now, I kind of skipped over that, but this is using the Bosch Performance Line CX, and that's really one of my favorite drive units. So Bosch makes 3 different drive units. This is their top end, and so that means you get the maximum amount of torque, and torque is what you need to climb hills. It's very responsive, so the Bosch system senses how hard you're pedaling, that is your torque, how quickly you're pedaling, that is your cadence, and the speed of the bike, there's a speed sensor back here, 1,000 times per second. So it's basically reading your mind. And as soon as you put a little bit of force on the pedals, you're going to get that activation right away, because the CX was originally designed for mountain bikes. And it's not unusual for a mountain biker to start on halfway up a hill and want to get power right away. So that's the nice thing about the CX, is you're going to get that power. And another really great thing about going with the CX version of Bosch's popular drive unit is up here on the display we have our usual off, and when I press the plus here I can move up to Eco, which gives me 50% of my input power. I can move up to Tour, but because we've got the CX, when I go to Sport, it flashes EMTB down there. I'll do that again. I'll go up to Turbo, which is the maximum power, which is great for hills. Move it back down to Sport, that's EMTB flashes up. That's a dynamic adaptive mode. It's automatically going to adjust the assistance down to the Tour, 120%, or up to the Turbo, 300%, depending on how hard you're pedaling. Originally it was designed for mountain bikes. On a mountain bike, you don't want to be adjusting the levels when you're on a difficult trail. You just want the bike to read your mind. Pedaling hard, give me power. Pedaling not as hard, preserve the battery life, bring the assistance down. Well, it turns out that's great on this bike as well. I'm the type of person that puts it on turbo for the hill and then forgets that it's there. And halfway through my ride I realized, well, my battery range isn't as good as it usually is. What happened? Oh, I forgot I left it on turbo. So I like that automatic mode where it just automatically adjusts for me. But of course, if you prefer to manually control it, you want super long range, put it in Eco, you'll be able to ride all day. You don't want to work at it, put it up to turbo, you'll be able to climb any hill really quickly. The other benefits of a mid-drive is that the weight is better distributed. It's more natural feeling because it's turning in the case of this bike, a belt or normally a chain, instead of turning the rear wheel like a rear hub motor does. And so that is how a bike is normally propelled. That also means that when you change gears, either on the touring version with the actual cassette or with the New Vinci with the internal CVT here, that directly impacts on the motor. So it's like having a transmission in your vehicle and really helps you to climb hills. So I love having a mid-drive for all those reasons, and the Bosch is definitely one of my favorites, especially with that EMTB mode. Lots of power, very natural feeling, and Bosch is really known for their reliability They've got a couple service centers in Canada, so we can very easily get parts and service from them. And most bike shops in North America have had their Bosch training and are able to deal with the system, so that's really great. Riesenmüller's chosen to use the Intuvia display, which is nice. It is removable, and when I remove it, it actually works off the bike, so I can use the I button here to cycle through my trip computer information. So for example, I can see the maximum speed, average speed, trip time, my range. I'll come back to that, the odometer, trip distance, and back to the clock. I can permanently mount it to the bike if I wish. There's a little screw that comes with the bike, lets you put it through there and into the back. Of course, I can cycle through that trip information on the remote, so I'm not having to touch the screen while I'm riding the bike, which is important, on both hands on the handlebars. And when I'm on the bike, let me just go back to that range calculator. This is really cool. It's saying, go back. In Eco, I've got 112 kilometers left. On Tour, and this is bike with a single battery, not fully charged, I've got 57 kilometers left. And if I go up to Turbo, I've got 35 kilometers left. That's really great because it actually calculates it based on the capacity of the battery and the last few kilometers that you've ridden. So it actually is really intelligent and really useful, so you don't have to worry about range anxiety. You're going to be able to know exactly how much further that you can go. So the Intuvia display is nice and big. You can see your battery level, your current speed, the assistance, your trip computer down here. Up in the top corner, it'll actually give you shift recommendations. So if it feels that shifting to an easier or harder gear would make you and the bike more efficient, it'll recommend that to you. And that's really useful because that'll help prolong your battery life and probably make prolong your leg life, at least, making you more efficient. With the Intuvia display, there also is a USB port that you can use for charging a smartphone, which is great. And because it's removable, you can put the Kobi system on there. That's C-O-B-I. You can check out the video review of it on our website. And that actually allows you to mount your smartphone and control your smartphone from the buttons on the remote here. So you don't have to take your hands off the bike to adjust your music, to do navigation, check your fitness, see calories you've burned, or even make phone calls. It's pretty cool. So you can check out the video review of that on our website at citruscycles.ca. So I do like having that Intuvia display. I think I talked about the fact that we do have an air fork. I probably glossed over that a little bit too quickly. It is a Suntour Ion. This is an e-bike specific air fork, which is great. It's nice and burly, designed for the higher weight load that an e-bike is going to be performing under, but it's also tuned a little bit differently because an e-bike is going to respond differently because of that increased weight and torque from the motor. It is a through axle here, so it is a quick release, but it's a through axle, making it nice and sturdy. And as an air fork, we have some adjustments here in terms of how open or closed we want it, firm or soft, but you can also come over here and use a shock pump to change the air to make it a higher pressure if you're a heavier rider and you want a firmer ride, or lower pressure if you're a lighter rider. So it's really neat that you can adjust that as you wish. And there are adjustments you can make with the Thudbuster. It comes with kind of a medium elastometer, but you can purchase lighter weight or heavier duty elastometers to adjust the riding with that as well. So hopefully I didn't miss anything. If I did, feel free to call or email. Happy to answer any questions that you have about this bike. Really comfortable, well designed, beautiful to look at, and I probably haven't emphasized that enough. That power tube integration, it's beautiful. I love the red, but you can get it in the other colors, the black and the pearl white as well. But really comfortable, high quality, fun to ride, and beautiful to look at. So for more information, you can head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. So I really like the riding position of the new Charger. This is the new Charger Mixte that I'm riding right now, the GT or GH New Vinci. And it's this great mix of, it's quite upright, very comfortable. Love the ergonomic grips and the higher angle on the stem, the rise in the bars. Just, you're in a nice, upright, comfortable position. You can see traffic, you're well visible as well. But at the same time, it still is sporty. So it's still, not like a cruiser bike where, you're so upright and your arms are way back and your elbows, and you feel, you don't have a lot of control, and you kind of just go slowly and, kind of just cruising around, which is great on a cruiser bike. But so this gives you all that comfort that you would want. but you can still have a sporty riding experience. So if you want to do a little bit of off-road or trails or things like that, you can, and that's really nice. It's a really nice combination of comfort and sporty. So I'm hitting 45 down the hill pedaling. I could probably pedal with the gear ratio on this bike up to about 50, maybe a little more than that, before my legs would really be spinning too fast to be able to contribute any effort to the speed. Of course, the motor stops assisting at 32 kilometers an hour. That's a legal requirement in Canada. But it is a nice gearing ratio. Sometimes with bikes with not as wide of a ratio, you really can't go fast. And you know, that might not be important to you. Two things you want out of a good gear ratio is climbing hills and going fast. So we're into some broken pavement here, some potholes, some gravel up ahead. And the bike's designed really well to handle all that. You know, riding through those potholes wasn't an issue at all. That air fork really helps smooth out the ride. It makes it very comfortable. The Thudbuster suspension seat post is working really well. It helps, again, smooth out the ride. And it's interesting, this saddle actually has a little bit of padding right at the back that not only makes it really comfortable, but it seems to do a little bit of bump absorbing there as well. So really very comfortable, really smooth ride. So now we're into some loose gravel here, and I'm gonna do some swerving, and they're just gripping no problem. And you know, it is fairly loose, looks like they just graded this. And these Supermoto X tires are fantastic for mixed terrain. So, you know, they work great on asphalt, of course. In the rain and wet, slick asphalt, they grip really well. And they really shine when you get into gravel. When you get on loose gravel, hard pack gravel, you know, any soft terrain, because they're so wide, they give you so much traction and stability. I really like having them. It's definitely a great tire. The only challenge I've ever found with these tires is in deep mud. There aren't any knobs on the tire, so it can be a little bit slipperier. Even the speed bumps weren't too bad. So really comfortable. You know, they've really thought things through. I'm wearing shorts right now, but earlier today I was riding this bike. I really like it, and so before I was doing the test ride video, I was out on it, and I had pants on, and I noticed, you know, it's got the full-length belt guard there to protect my pant legs from getting caught in the belt. So that's really nice. It's the kind of bike you can just hop on no matter what clothes you're wearing and take it for a ride. So I'm going to be going under a tunnel. I'll probably lose the GPS, which is unfortunate because it's nice to see the grade of the hill that's coming up. It is quite steep, and it's a hill I often use to test out bikes, but of course I'm very familiar with the Bosch CX drive on this bike. In fact, this is the way I go home every day, on a Bosch CX bike most of the time. And despite it being a very steep hill, you know, I have no problems climbing it. So I kind of gave it away. We're going to make it up the hill. The other thing I like to do on the hill is to get a sense of the gear ratio, how they geared the bike. Is it really good for climbing? And how steep can we go? So right now I've got it on EMTB, and I can leave it there because I'm going to pedal hard. And on the EMTB, it's just going to automatically put it up with a higher level of assistance. But if you're thinking, yeah, I don't really want to pedal super hard, press the plus, get it up to turbo there. And without having to pedal hard, it's giving me the full amount of assistance at 300%. So I'm not actually in, there we go. Now I'm in my lowest gear ratio. I don't actually need to go that low. I can bring it down to about there. And I love the new Vinci. You know, you probably can't tell from the video here, but the rate is variable. And so as I'm climbing the hill, I can just simply give that a twist and dial in the exact cadence that I want to be riding with. So yeah, that steep hill, I still had some gear ratio left, so I could definitely climb steeper hills than that. That's nice. It's nice to know you can climb the really steep hills. And of course, with the CX drive, it was no problem. Once you get used to riding with the new Vinci, it's a great system because I don't know, the camera angle isn't right here, but throughout the ride I'm just constantly making small minor adjustments to just get that perfect cadence. And once you kind of get used to having that ability without needing to shift gears, without having to stop pedaling, or without having to be pedaling, it's really great. It's a really enjoyable, very intuitive system. So I'm going to cut the camera here, come back to you on a cycling path and hit some gravel trails as well. Okay, I'm going to head down a bit of a gravel hill here and onto a bit of a trail. Test out the Supermoto X tires. I've ridden quite a few bikes with them actually. They're really popular tires, especially on an e-bike. They're nice and wide, gives you lots of traction, control, stability. And they do really well in loose gravel. You know, obviously they work well on pavement, but when you get into trails, loose gravel, soft sand, you know, they work really well. So far no problems. I can do some swerving and, you know, just kind of going back and forth trying to get some slippage here, but nothing. They really grip very well. I can, you know, brake and come to easy stop. The brakes are really good. They have a lot of modulation, so you don't have to lock up the wheels. So this is quite literally a rail trail. You can actually see the rail lines are still there. Hard packed gravel, and you know, these tires, the bike does a really great job on any of these types of trails. Can handle it quite well. Yes, you don't have to worry about slipping at all on the soft sand or gravel. Riding over sticks and roots and rocks is not a problem either with that suspension fork. Really not going to have any problems at all. You could do a bit of mountain biking with the Charger. It's interesting, they use the same frame. So this is the, I'm riding the new Charger Mixte. Both the regular new Charger and the Mixte, they use the same frame for their new Charger Mountain and new Charger Mountain Mixte. So the frame is very capable of mountain biking, and so are the components. So you've got that suspension fork. The air fork is great for mountain biking. So this is a really good bike you can use for kind of everything. Certainly trail riding, and also for commuting and that sort of thing as well.